we're efforting that. We should have him up and ready to roll in about a second. Actually, I think he is. I think he's ready to rock. And let's reach out to Jordan, see what's going on. Jordan, how are you, my man? Jordan Raanan, who does a phenomenal job covering the Giants.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, good, man. Good, Jordan.
You up by the water?
No, I'm outside standing in the rain for you guys, so that's what we're doing.
Oh, wow. Don't do that. Oh, man, don't do that.
This is fog right here.
That's a friend of the show right there doing that kind of stuff.
The stadium's back here somewhere. I don't think you can see it. It's so foggy.
You can't? Wow.
Nah.
Yeah.
It's right back there. Yeah.
We see it. We can see it in the distance. Yeah. Okay. Hey, any updates, Jordan? Anything we need to know injury-wise from a Giant perspective going into this one?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for them is Leonard Williams, standout defensive lineman. He's dealing with some sort of neck injury, so he's not practicing today. He's sort of the biggest name, I think, to keep an eye out for. Xavier McKinney, who mangled his hand during the bye week, he's also not going to come back this week. So some questions on their defense. Otherwise, relatively healthy for the Giants.
Hey, Jordan, this team has gone 1-3-1 in this last 5 games, and the only time it's scored over 20 points is in a win over Houston. I mean, what is happening? Has this team hit that proverbial wall? We have given Daboll and Wink Martindale so many accolades about what they did with this team. What's going on with it?
Maybe it's sort of like a correction to the mean, I think, a little bit. Like, they're playing better competition. That's the bottom line, frankly. They're doing a lot of the same things. They're not playing quite as crisp. They're making a few more mistakes along the way. They had 10 men on the field for a big 4th down play. They made some questionable decisions this past week in a tie against Washington. So just the little things. But I look, we said it the whole time. They got off to this great start, but there were a lot of signs out there that it wasn't really sustainable. And I think we're finding that out as they're playing better teams, better offenses, better competition. Also, they were banged up a little bit during the stretch, but they're a little bit healthier now.
Can you blame? Can you put some of the blame on Daniel Jones' play to the weapons that he has? Because he has no Kenneth Halladay, no Sterling Shepard. Look at what he's. Darius Slay is probably Darius Slay and Sills probably his 2 best receivers. A rookie and Bellinger being his best tight end. Yeah. I mean, how do you expect him to go out there? I mean, we gave Jalen Hurts weapons.
Yeah,
you guys tried to give, but you traded away one of your draft picks from last year to Kansas City. How do you expect this kid to get better when you're not giving him anything to work with?
Well, I think that shows you what they thought about Kadarius Toney. They were willing to trade him, right, when they didn't have any receivers.
Right.
So that tells you how much they trusted Kadarius Toney, which was 0. Okay.
Right.
So get what we can because we trust this guy not at all. But yeah. Jeez. Daniel Jones has done a lot of good things this year, and we're kind of in the same boat where we were last year and the year before. It's like, okay, he could play, but do we really want to build around him? We don't really know what he's going to be because they don't have anything around him. So we're still in that same spot, and it's hard to really say, their struggles recently or anything, and it's on Daniel Jones' shoulders. They haven't been able to run the ball, which was the key earlier this year. They haven't been able to run the ball successfully. Saquon's definitely not having the same success he was as earlier in the season. And he's throwing to nobody, man. I mean, it's really bare when you look at his weapons here. They're using his legs effectively. So I don't think you say, okay, the Giants, if they don't make the playoffs or they, struggle down the stretch here, anyone who sits there and is like, oh, it's because Daniel Jones is no good. That's not really the full story here at all.
Yeah.
Jordan, what's his future there with the Giants?
It's a good question because I think what we know about Daniel Jones, and like I said, kind of like what I said before the season, I think I probably said it right here to you guys. I think we know he's a quality quarterback. You could start and you could win some games with him. But if you if you line the 32 quarterbacks up, he's probably 16 right in the middle, right? The Ryan Tannehill type range. And that's fine. You can win games and you have no problem if he's your quarterback. But there's a different story when you're talking about, well, do we want to build around him, right? That's a different story than, are we okay with this guy as my quarterback, especially on a rookie deal? Or, hey, do we now want to pay him and build on him? So I think they're going to try and find a solution where they keep him around short-term. They don't have to make that long-term investment and then still look elsewhere for a potential long-term solution. But it's a tricky situation because him and Saquon, both free agents, only one franchise tag available. And, what do they do there? The franchise pays a lot more for a quarterback than it is for a running back.
Hey, Jordan, I'm looking at the numbers for Saquon Barkley, who's had 242 carries already through 12 games with this team. And he hasn't had a 100-yard game since the Houston game. He's had 63, 39, and 22 yards the last 2 games. Is he starting to show wear and tear, or are teams just loading up the box to defend better against him?
It's a great question. I mean, I asked him last week, and I said, hey, people say you're either injured because he had a shoulder injury a while back, or you're wearing down, and that's why the numbers are decreasing. And he told me that's BS. It's just that he just hasn't played that well, to be honest with you. That's what he said, which is interesting. At least it shows, he's certainly accountable. And I think there's something to that. But it's also, hey, their offensive line was banged up. They're not great. And their opposing teams come in. What do you think the Eagles' game plan is going to be? Yeah. You think they're scared of Daniel Bellinger and Darius Slayton as the Giants' top 2 weapons? I mean, or you think they're going to say, well, we need to stop Saquon Barkley? So pretty clear. It's probably a combination of everything. The thing is, you mentioned the carries and the touches. It's more than that, Gunnar. He's playing 83% of the snaps this year. 83% of the snaps. Do you know, the next running back is in almost 10% lower? They're in the lower 70s. So I'm sure there's some of that to it, but it's also the fact that he doesn't have any help around him. There's just not enough help and not enough attention that could be taken off.
Jordan, this may sound like a crazy question because of the year that he's had, but are they going to pay him a crazy amount of money? I mean, we know the way this is trending with running backs, period, and he's going to want a lot of money. Is it a lock he's back?
I think it's a lock he's back because, like I mentioned before, the franchise tag. Because think about it, a franchise tag is the best solution for a running back, right? You pay him 10 or 12 million, whatever it is, it's going to fall somewhere in there next year, and it's only a 1-year investment, and he's your best offensive weapon. That's an easy call. Yeah, sure, we do that. It's a different story if you're talking about, okay, do we want to guarantee him $30 million, which I don't think there's any chance in the world they would do that, by the way, and give him the 16 plus million Christian McCaffrey got. I'd be surprised if Joe Shane wants to go down that direction. But also remember, most teams, your franchise player, the face of the franchise, is a quarterback. Right here with the Giants right now, it's the running back, right? When people come out to training camp and they go to do charity things, people want to see Saquon Barkley. He's the guy. So I don't think ownership's just going to be all right, we can let him walk. We'll survive without him because it's not like we've just talked about that. What else do they have? They can't let their only good weapon just walk.
When you talk about weapons, though, you go to the defensive side of the ball. Your DBs are starting to drop a couple. Is Adoree Jackson going to be back?
No Adoree Jackson.
What about Darnay Holmes?
All right.
Wait, am I here?
We lost you for 1 second with Darnay Holmes.
Yeah. Adoree's out this week. Darnay Holmes is dealing with a shoulder injury, but Darnay Holmes is you don't mind if he's in there anyway if you're the Eagles. So it's not going to change much. But Adoree Jackson's what I mean. Fabian Moreau is now their number 1 cornerback, and you saw what happened last week when he matched up against Terry McLaurin. And look, that's not an easy matchup. Terry McLaurin's a beast. I think he's a really good player, but AJ Brown's a different level, so it's definitely every matchup back there is a matchup to Philadelphia's advantage. And the only way for the Giants, I think, to slow down this Philadelphia offense is going to be if that pressure, they could just pressure Jalen Hurts into mistakes. And they did get Azeez Ojulari back last week, outside linebacker, second-year guy. Kayvon Thibodeau's really stepped up his game recently. Dexter Lawrence is their best defensive player this year. They could be able to create some real pressure up front. That's their recipe to spoil what's likely will be a big day for this Eagles offense.
What does Brian Daboll tell you guys in the media in terms of what this team needs to do to turn things around?
Yeah, look, he's just a very, Belichickian type guy. We take it day by day. We only worry about today. He really doesn't look at anything big picture-wise. So he's just been preaching the same things over and over, right? The last 4 or 6, really all season. Now, that's fine and dandy when everything's working earlier in the season, right? And everything's going well. That's a great thing to preach. But now you've started to see some cracks the last couple of weeks. You saw some nondescript players complaining about playing time this past week. Some of his decisions are getting criticized. So now to me, this is the real test for Brian Daboll. It's like, okay, culture is great. To me, like culture is when you win everything, you could cover up all your problems. Every team has problems, right? But when you're winning, they're more likely to fall into the background. Now, when you're starting to lose and you're not winning, at least they have only won once in 5 games now, it becomes, okay, how do you keep it together? This is the real test for me, for Brian Daboll, more so next week than this week, because nobody expects them to win this week. Next week is their season's on the line next week against Washington. Winner of that game is going to go to the playoffs, and the loser's likely going to be out.
Jordan, what's your sense? You keep a close eye on the Eagles as well, I know, in the NFC and the NFC East in particular. With what you've seen thus far, record aside, 11-1, obviously, but like from what you've seen from them, is this a legit Super Bowl contender, a team that can win the whole thing?
Absolutely, especially San Francisco was one of the teams I thought that could give them a run.
Yep.
Yeah, now they got that big question at quarterback. I mean, Jalen Hurts has played better than like all of us expected, I think, right? I mean, yeah, we knew you could win games with him. We didn't really know he was going to play at an MVP level. And if you did, you should have told me beforehand. We could have made some money on that. I'm sure the odds were pretty nice entering the season on Jalen Hurts for MVP. But no, I mean, when you're looking at the outside, and I told you this, I think before the season, I thought this was the most talented Eagles roster we've seen in years, and nothing's changed. Like they're bloated all over the place, right? The secondary is really good. The wide receivers are better than they've ever been since however long we've been covering this team, all of us really. I don't think they've ever had better wide receivers than this group. Their offensive line is good. And I asked Brian Daboll today, I said, what do you see when you look at the Eagles tape? Because he said, they're 11-1. They're really good. And he listed off. He's like, man, their wide receivers are great. Their defensive backs are great. Their offensive line, Jason Kelsey leading the way, they're great. Their weapons are great. Their wide receivers are great. Their quarterback's playing at a top level. Like, they got a lot of things going for them. I'd be surprised at this point if the Super Bowl representative for the NFC is not either Dallas or the Eagles when all said and done.
I like the fact that, everybody's saying that, and we're starting to get some national attention for, our quarterback. What do you think he sits as far as the MVP race?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's probably very close to Patrick Mahomes at this point. I think it's shaping up to be a 2-man race. I think in the end, Mahomes probably win.
Yep.
Because the throwing touchdowns just is more impressive than rushing touchdowns, I think. So in the end of the day, if he throws for like 50 touchdowns, it's going to be pretty good. I mean, unless they start losing a bunch of games, then the differential in record, I think, will factor in. But Jalen Hurts is definitely going to get a lot of votes. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's going to finish with what? He's in the 600 yards rushing, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's say he finishes like close to 1,000 yards rushing in addition to, 30 plus passing touchdowns and his interceptions. What does he have? Like
3.
Less than 5. So you go 30 and 6 and rush for close to 1,000 yards. I mean, man, I don't know how you can argue that.
Those are Superman numbers, man. That's why he should be the MVP, period.
I know.
Yeah. Hey,
17 games, though. Change the numbers. Numbers look a little better in that 17th game.
Right.
A little bit.
Hey, Jordan, how much better is the Giants' offensive line this year compared to last year? I mean, last year was a mess.
Yeah.
They tried to fix it to a certain degree. And listening to you, you're still saying there's a lot of issues along the offensive line. Is it just marginally better or that much better? How would you categorize it?
Yeah, the bar was so low that it was like, okay, it's got to be better. The funny part is I've been saying that for 4 years. In the past 3 years, it didn't get better.
Right.
But they've been a better run blocking line. And this was sort of the expectation coming into the season. They're a better run blocking line than they are pass blocking line. And Daboll knows it. I've spoken to him about this. If they go back and have to throw it in or stuck in passing downs, the line, like they're dead. It's going to be over, right? They're going to be in huge trouble. They have to be 2-dimensional. Like they have to have the option of pass and run. You'll see them run sometimes when you're like, this is an obvious passing situation because they know the line is ultimately wouldn't hold up if you just let a team like Philadelphia or Dallas just go rush the quarterback in passing downs. But they are significantly better as a run blocking line. And that's where you could see them. Any path for them to win in this game involves the line playing well, blocking well in the run game, and Saquon having a big game. That's been their recipe every game they've won, pretty much. Saquon has at least 70 yards rushing in every win they have this season.
Wow.
Jordan, the other side of the ball, they're not defending the run well.
No.
It has been a real struggle. And then, the Eagles are, right there in terms of almost any team in the league with their ability to run the ball. Do you foresee that? I mean, this is going to be just pounded down their throat, kind of like they did with the Packers 2 weeks ago, the Eagles?
Not really, because it's a little different. Everyone sees, I say, the Giants, their run defense is no good. The way you exploit the Giants in the run game is on the edges, though. So it's not just like, okay, pound it up the middle. It's more like stretch plays. They play a lot of defensive backs, running when they're in nickel, running at their nickels, get out wide and attack. Their linebackers, middle linebackers are just, Jalen Smith was on his couch and is their starting middle linebacker, okay? He was on the couch like in week 1, 2, and 3 or whatever it was, something like that.
So you're talking about the Dallas.
Former Dallas, former Notre Dame.
That same guy is starting at middle linebacker for the Giants.
I was looking at their stats today, and I had to double check and say that it wasn't some college kid by the same name. It was him.
Yeah.
Honest to God.
Yeah. You're not kidding. I mean, that's where they're at. Their roster is it's got holes. They know that. I mean, it's no joke. That like you could go, secondary. They only have one safety right now, right? Xavier McKinney's injured. Their cornerbacks are really a problem. Their middle linebackers are a problem, right? They don't really have a slot cornerback. They struggle at the edge rusher spot until they just got Azeez Ojulari back. So there's holes. Even their return game, they have no returner. It's like, man. And if you go look at the stats, Rob, you can look at offense, you can look at defense. You'd be like, they're below average offense, they're below average defense. How are they a winning team? And that's kind of why it's sort of reverted to the mean. Like that was the case even when they were winning. They were letting up more yards than they were gaining. Like they were winning every close game. So eventually it was going to come back. And now, like they lost to Detroit, who is playing much better. Seattle's a decent team. Washington's a good team. I'm missing another good team in there. Dallas whooped them. They're a good team. Now they're playing the Eagles, Washington again, the Eagles again later in the year, Minnesota. It's going to be a tough road for the Giants because the competition has stepped up and they're just limited.
Well, Jordan, I mean, I played in a bunch of division games. I played for the Eagles. I played there 4 years. I played a year with the Giants. And it didn't matter what the record was. It was always a smash mouth, hit them in the face type of game when you thought about playing the Giants and the Eagles. And when I look at this game, the last time the Eagles were up there, Jalen Hurts probably played his worst game of the year in that stadium. So, I mean, he doesn't have a good history right now playing up in New York.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's obviously the game the Giants want to play, and that's their recipe for success. Like, if you lay it out, like, that's how they're going to win, right? They're going to muck it up. They want to run. They want to play a physical game, a nice, NFC East winter division game. Although, I mean, I'm standing out here right now. It's got to be close to 60 degrees. It's actually it's not very cold. But, I mean, that's what the Giants are looking to do. And, if Jalen Hurts plays like that, it gives them a chance. If Jalen Hurts plays like he has been playing, the Eagles are at a very distinct advantage. But, look, the Giants aren't a bad team, so they can put together a good performance. It's not out of the question. Daniel Jones has played really well at times this year. He, when he plays really well, and he's played well all year, but when he really puts together a strong game, it'll give them a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. And then they'll take their chances from there. That's what they're hoping for.
George, what's the pulse in North Jersey, New York with the Giants? Is it a patience thing? Are they understanding that this is going to take a little bit? They took over a difficult situation, or is it like Philly? There's no patience, and
Well, I think there was patience, and everyone thought they were going to stink, and then they were good, and at 7-2, all of a sudden stealing all these games, everyone got all excited. Now it's like this season. Some people would say this season's a failure if they don't make the playoffs now, which is fair because they were 7-2, but at the same time, as an overall program, it's a big step in the right direction, right? You feel confident about what they have in the coach and the general manager for the first time in really a long time. So, I do think the patience has started to wear off a little bit. And what are we, 11, 12 games into the new regime here? Right. So 12 games into the new regime, it's starting to wear off. But that's because they created almost an expectation that they were better than they were. So good point. I still think in the end, everybody knows this team is not very good. Like they really, every fan knows like, hey, we should make the playoffs, but we're really not that good.
Hey, Jordan, you talk about their playoff prospects, and when you consider how this team has been spiraling downward, they still have 2 against Philly, another one against Washington, Minnesota. Realistically, can this team slip in the back door, or are they basically just holding on for dear life and they're going to end up on the outside looking in?
They're holding on for dear life. How about this, though? This is what I've been thinking recently.
Yeah.
A lot of their playoff hopes might rest on what do the Eagles do in Week 18?
Yep.
Do they have anything to play for? Are they going to throw guys out there? Right? I mean, that could have a huge effect on whether the Giants make the playoffs or not. Right? If the Giants beat Indianapolis, that gets them to 8 wins. They kind of need a 9th win. So either you beat Washington or you probably beat Philadelphia in Week 18 when the Eagles are really just, going through the motions. Like, what do we have to play for here? We've seen that a gazillion times before. And it's possible. I mean, if the Eagles beat Dallas, they're playing for nothing pretty much, right? As long as Minnesota doesn't win out. So, and even then, they have a tiebreaker over Minnesota. So it's like, there's a good chance that game means nothing to the Eagles. Now, you guys tell me what you think, because how would Nick Sirianni play it? Because also you have to think about it. They get a bye. You don't play guys in that final game. Then you're not playing guys for like 3 weeks. That's a long time for guys to kind of take off. It'll be interesting. I think that's going to play a huge role in the Giants' fate this year.
I think he'd get him a couple series, max, maybe 2. They err on the side of caution with injuries in a big way. So I don't think it's going to be much, Jordan. But I hear you. Like, you don't want him sitting that long either.
So that's good for the Giants then, because then that's saying, okay, we want to get the guys some work, but we don't really care about the outcome of the game.
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Jordan, listen, man, we appreciate you braving the elements out there, man. You're a gamer.
I'm not that tough, Rob. It's not really raining. It was drizzling a little bit at the beginning, but right now.
Let people think that, man. It's pouring. Let them think it. Jordan, we appreciate it, man. Keep up the good work. Always a great follow.
Thank you,
Twitter
bro.
and ESPN as well. Thank you, Jordan.
I'll see you guys Sunday.
All right, man. Take care.
That is Jordan Raanan, ESPN NFL reporter. He has a really good pulse on everything, not just the Giants, but I think the NFC, the Eagles. He covered the Birds here. He was in the city for a while. He does a really good job with all of that. All right, interesting information there. It seems like you want to get out in some space here and on the edge to be able to pound them with the running attack. But let's be honest, man. This should not be a game the Eagles have problems with, even though it's there.
No.
I know it's dangerous, Barrett, because it's the NFC
division game.
Giants are trending the wrong way.
And we saw what they did the last time they were up there. And I can't just get that out of my head, how bad Hurts played. And I believe it's going to be a determining factor on how he's going to play this next game going up there. I mean, he has some bad memories up there. He got hurt also when he went up there.
Yeah.
So,
that's a great point.
He's going to be ready. He's going to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And he strikes you as a guy who has a long memory for these kind of things.
Absolutely.
He'll remember that. All right. So let's come back. We'll dive into the NFL. We'll do our AFC power rankings. We'll do buy, sell Super Bowl edition, update you on a couple players, injuries, where guys went, some movement in the league as well. We'll dip into all that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. He's Barrett. He's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. All right. Razor Technology and cybersecurity. Because protecting data is a security imperative for businesses of all sizes. Choose a partner like Razor Technology with expertise in the latest threats and proactive tools to lock down every endpoint with zero trust approach that makes certain only authorized users gain access to your systems. Razor delivers enterprise-wide insight into every component of a security plan across the identity, devices, information, apps, and infrastructure with threat-prioritized recommendations. We design, employ, and deploy, manage, and monitor security solutions that enable modern business to safely communicate, collaborate, and thrive in the modern marketplace. Whether they are working in person or remotely, on internal infrastructure or in the cloud, and in every possible hybrid arrangement. Choose Razor Technology to protect your digital assets, establish an organized-wide security posture, enforce safe practices for identity and access management, and secure hybrid and remote workforces. Call Razor Technology today at 866-797-3282, 866-797-3282, or visit them online at razor-tech.com. That's razor-tech.com.